Have you ever felt this way? I'm working so hard, so why does nothing feel like enough? You have a job, you have people who love you, there's food on the table, and yet late at night, there's this hollow feeling right in the middle of your chest, like something carved a quiet space there and forgot to fill it back in. You lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering, what am I actually living for? In those moments, we tend to reach for the same answer: get more money, and maybe then, more recognition, and maybe then, a bigger home, a better title, a longer vacation, and maybe finally then. But here's the strange thing. Every time we get the thing we wanted, a new more appears right behind it. The story I want to share with you today is about a man who did the exact opposite. He walked away from a kingdom, from his wife, his newborn child, a palace filled with every comfort imaginable. He left all of it behind. And on the other side of that leaving, he found something no one could have predicted. You already know his name. We call him the Buddha. Today, I'd like to walk slowly through the story of that choice, the choice to let go, and see what it might mean for the rest of us. About 2,500 years ago, at the foot of the Himalayas in northern India, there was a small kingdom. A prince was born there, sheltered, adored, surrounded by beauty from his very first breath. The finest foods, the softest silks, the most exquisite music. His father, the king, had made a private vow: this child would never see suffering. He arranged the world so that aging, illness, and death would never enter the palace gates. The boy grew up in a kind of painted paradise, but one day the prince rode out beyond the palace walls, and there, on an ordinary road, he saw what his father had tried so hard to hide: an old man, bent and trembling, leaning heavily on a cane, a sick man reduced to bones and labored breath, and then a body lying still by the roadside, cold, unmoving, gone. Something struck the prince like a dull blade to the chest. I too will grow old. I too will become ill. I too will die. There is no escaping this. When he returned to the palace, nothing looked the same. The music didn't reach him. The food had no taste. Even his wife's smile, even the face of his newborn son, felt like something seen from very far away. And then one night, he was 29 years old, he made his decision. He stood at the doorway of the room where his wife and child slept, and looked at them from a distance. He didn't wake them. He held a silent promise in his heart: I will come back. When I have found the answer, I will come back. And then he walked out alone into the dark. He cut his hair. He traded his royal robes for the simple cloth of a wanderer, and he went in search of the great teachers of his time. For 6 years, he practiced the most severe austerities. He fasted, he held his breath, he sat motionless beneath a scorching sun. Some accounts say there were days he survived on a single grain of rice. His body became so thin that his ribs showed through his skin. After 6 years of that fierce self-denial, the wanderer arrived at a quiet and unexpected conclusion. Suffering through the body will not lead me to the truth. So he walked to the river, and there he accepted a bowl of rice porridge from a village girl who had noticed how close to death he looked. He lifted it to his lips and drank. The 5 fellow practitioners who had been with him watched in disbelief. He has fallen, they said, and they left him. But he did not waver. This moment is worth sitting with for a while, because there is a concept in Buddhist thought called equanimity, or more literally, releasing and letting rest. It doesn't mean throwing things away carelessly or pretending things don't matter. It means releasing the grip, stopping the clinging. When the young prince left the palace, it wasn't because he despised his wealth. It was because he wanted to be free from the belief that his wealth was what he was. The titles, the pleasures, the beautiful surroundings, none of those things were evil in themselves. But as long as he clung to them as his identity, as long as he needed them to feel whole, he could not be free. And then, and this is the part I find quietly beautiful, he also released his clinging to the austerities themselves. 6 years of believing that suffering was the path, and then with honesty saying, I was wrong. That kind of honesty takes real courage, to look at something you've believed in for years and say, this isn't it. That too is a form of letting go. He sat beneath a fig tree by the river, and as dawn broke over the water, something shifted in him. A clarity arrived, not from striving, but from stillness. He saw with a precision he had never known before what causes suffering and what leads beyond it. From that morning, He was no longer the wanderer. He was the one who had awakened. What he had found was not wealth, not power, not fame. It was an unshakable quietness, a peace that rose from within him, undisturbed by whatever moved on the surface of life. After hearing this story, you might be thinking, but I can't walk away from my family. I have work, a mortgage, a life. What does any of this have to do with me? And you're right. Of course you're right. The point was never to literally abandon everything and disappear into the forest. What matters is the direction of the heart, the gentle, ongoing practice of not clinging. Think about the last time something unfair happened at work. Maybe a dismissive comment from your boss, or being passed over for something you deserved. For hours, maybe days, you replayed it. Why did they say it like that? I did everything right, they're wrong. That loop, quietly and persistently, drained you. In Buddhist teaching, this is what's meant when we say attachment creates suffering. It's rarely the event itself that wears us down. It's the gripping, the returning to it again and again, the refusal to let it settle. Letting go isn't the same as giving up. It doesn't mean pretending you weren't hurt, or swallowing your anger and calling it peace. It simply means noticing, I'm holding on to this. Just that noticing, without judgment, has a way of loosening things slightly. For parents, it might look like this: the quiet, fierce wish that your child will live a certain kind of life, walk a certain kind of road. When that wish hardens into expectation, it can become, without meaning to, a weight your child carries. Releasing some of that grip doesn't mean you love them less. Often it means something more like wind moving through a room that had been closed for too long. Or maybe it's the body you used to have. I didn't used to feel like this. I should still be able to do this. The self we used to be can become something we cling to, and the clinging makes the present harder to inhabit. To gently set down yesterday's version of yourself, that too is a small act of release. The night the prince left the palace, he told no one. He didn't ask permission. He didn't wait for the right circumstances. He simply quietly decided. The choices we make to let go are rarely announced. They happen somewhere inside us, private, unhurried, but real. A quiet resolve that changes the way we carry ourselves through the day. If there's one thing I'd like to leave with you today, it's this. What you've been looking for may already be there, underneath everything you're holding. This isn't about getting rid of your belongings. It's an invitation to gently loosen your grip on the things you believe you cannot exist without. The man in our story didn't let go of everything and then receive something in return. It wasn't an exchange. When there was nothing left to cling to, he simply noticed what had been there all along, a stillness, quiet and steady, that the grasping had always covered over. That same stillness lives in you. You don't have to travel anywhere to find it. It isn't waiting at the end of some achievement. It's here, in the noise of an ordinary Tuesday, in the warmth of your blanket tonight, in the small curl of steam rising from your morning cup of tea. Thank you, truly, for spending this time here with me today. The fact that you're here, that you listened, that is more than enough. When you sit with that stillness, even for a breath or two, you'll notice something shift. The urgency falls away, and what remains is both simple and complete. This is what the ancient ones knew. There is nothing to earn, nothing to become, only this moment, asking you to meet it as you are. And if you forget, if tomorrow or next week the old patterns pull you back into grasping, simply remember that stillness is still there, patient and waiting,